Hi everyone! So today I'm gonna do something I never genuinely thought I would do, but here goes. I'm gonna give you guys a glimpse of my little home library. Most of the books that you'll see here are books that were given to my sister and I as gifts throughout the years, but there's also books that we've bought and books that we bought each other as gifts. One of the reasons that I've often been really reluctant to share what I read is that I find a significant amount of people believe in some weird hierarchy of book reading that marks them as more intelligent or more cosmopolitan than the rest of us when it comes to choices in books. I think in reality, reading any book will give you a fragment of a new worldview, and I've often found myself holding back on sharing what I liked reading just because I didn't enjoy feeling like I needed to defend my choices or explain why I'm reading both Seneca and Stephanie Meyer. But I've never really enjoyed the odd elitism I found in many book clubs and groups, so I've just learned to keep to myself. Now, however, I find myself more confident in directing conversations and more able to be myself without worrying about who's thinking what about what I'm reading, when, and all that nonsense. I just really enjoy reading. I enjoy the way a vivid story can momentarily take you away from the stressors of the world or teach you a new skill or, more importantly, help you expand your vocabulary and give you new phrases to help you express something you thought no one else felt. Finding quote-unquote good books can sometimes be like finding an oasis of peace, and I enjoy reading because I think it can help people see that other people or other characters are living through the same situations that you're going through or have lived through the same situations that you're currently going through. You don't feel as alone as you did prior to picking up this book. Now, I'm not one of those people who has a perfect record of every book I've ever read, or I don't take a certain pride in reading a certain amount of books, a number of books every year. Although the pride I do have in books are, I'll call them flex books. They're those leather-bound books that I never actually read. I read the paperback versions of them, but they're so pretty and they're such beautiful gifts. I can't bring myself to read those books because I'm really scared I'm gonna dog-ear the page or I'm gonna accidentally mess up the book. So besides that, there's no pride in my books. Right now, I'm about to get into some of my preferred series that I read as a younger person, some of the books that really cemented my love of reading. The first series I wanted to share with you guys, it's by Lois Lowry. It's called The Giver, and it's a series in which this young boy is born into a dystopian society where everyone has their jobs chosen for them except for this one mysterious person called The Giver, and The Giver's job is to hold on to people's memories in that society. So instead of people feeling pain or people feeling loss, grieving, hurt, the memory of that emotion just goes directly to the giver, and the giver holds on to it. This series follows the new giver that was chosen. His name is Jonas, and it follows him into the choices that come with keeping people's memories. These books are, no matter what your age, actually, these books are a great read. They're really, really short books. I think they're about 179 pages each. Very short books, and books that I really highly recommend. The next series that I really, really enjoyed reading, it's actually super pertinent to our society right now, and it's called The Uglies. The series is called The Uglies. It's by Scott Westfield. The premise is that there's a dystopian society where two groups of people live. One of the groups is called the Pretties, and one of the groups is called the Uglies. So the Uglies, they're unaltered human beings who live in rundown and crime-ridden areas, genuinely places we associate with not wanting to live in, while the Pretties are surgically altered former Uglies who got their surgeries at 16, and they're now physically perfect human beings that live in almost a utopia, spotless, clean, amazing places. And this series, it's pertinent to our society right now because it's talking about how our looks decide how we're treated, and I think the series was really interesting because of all of the choices that each of the characters made to either remain uglies or become pretties, or of course the only other option is to revolt. And they're longer books, definitely longer books, but they're books that are worth the read and will give you an idea of where we're at as a society right now. So I'm going to show you guys a quick glimpse of the different types of books that I like to read. I genuinely enjoy reading religious texts, but I'm going to stay away from that in this video. Right now I'm just showing you guys that I really enjoy reading books that come with a deeply interesting premise, or books that are well written. I don't enjoy sticking to one particular genre. I don't like to make myself blind to things that might help me grow as a human being. So I tend to pick up books, especially if it's by an author I think I have nothing in common with, or a story I can't necessarily relate to immediately. I really like to grab onto those books. Getting another human being's perspective, seeing their point of view, that's really how we help expand our compassion and our empathy and our worldview without necessarily having to spend a ton of money or a ton of time traveling. And it's a way to sort of become a better human being within your own house. I always try to read books by people who are not people, quote unquote, like me. I like to read books by people who are in different situations, or people who didn't necessarily grow up with the same privileges I did, and seeing how that impacts the characters in their stories. In addition to finding repose in novels by people who are like you should always be seeking to push your boundaries and see how other people live. You are absolutely limitless, you really are, and there's no reason to keep yourself in one box. I particularly enjoy novels that teach you something about where we're headed as a society, the types of temptations that will present themselves to us, and a glimpse of the choices facing us if we proceed down a certain path. I like books that give you a glimpse into different worlds. So while we all live on the same planet, not many of us live in the same worlds, and I like books that ask the types of questions we have to be aware of in order to avoid becoming a certain type of people, or conversely give you answers you'll require in certain situations, to help you define the type of person you want to become, being aware of the type of person you want to become, not just the type of person you don't want to be. So now we're about to get into my iBooks. I hope you guys aren't purists by any stretch of the imagination. I love iBooks. I have them on my phone. I use my empty time to read a couple pages every day. And the first thing I'm going to show you guys, it's a satirical essay. It's called A Modest Proposal. It's by Dr. Jonathan Swift, and get this, it was written in 1729. And I love this essay because it really illustrates some of the issues still facing our societies even to this day, in such a short, poignant read. Even if it's written in some more dated English, he illustrates how absurd it is to judge people on money. It's worth the read, just to see that we're still facing some of the same challenges we were facing in the past. We haven't worked towards the type of future that most of us want. But reading, I don't necessarily just consider it reading books with words. I like to also read picture books, if you call them. I'm about to show you guys this book that I really enjoy. It's called The Calligraphy of Love, and you'll see it's written mainly in Arabic calligraphy, but the quotes are quotes about love, not necessarily romantic love, but they're quotes from people all over the world. And the ornate calligraphy that I'm giving you a glimpse of, it's so beautiful, and I love giving my eyes the food of beauty when I can. A short read, a great introduction into getting these iBooks and using your time wisely. As I scroll through my iBooks, I want to mention one of the things I do to keep up my foreign languages is I try to read books in that language to see how the language flows organically, as contrasted to the contrite sentences you'll find in language books. There's more complex ideas, intense feelings, deeper thoughts expressed, so you can really get a grasp on how poetic every language is. The book I'm about to show you guys, it's called Henry and June. It's by Anais Nin. It's translated to Spanish, and it's one of the books that I like to read to see how fluent I am in that language. The next book moving forward is a short poetry book I just picked up. It's by Therese Marie Mailhot. It's called Heartberries, and it explores the author's life as a Native American woman living in Canada, dealing with really intense issues like mental illness, abuse, and finding her self-worth in her achievements. Most of my poetry books, in fact most of the books you'll see here on my iBooks, should come with some sort of trigger warning. I like to get an idea of the struggles that people go through to help me be more understanding and more compassionate in my life. So there's books that deal with complex traumas, and please read a quick synopsis before you pick these up, just to make sure you can handle them. So one of the books that I'm showing you guys here It's a really, really short book. It's by Khalil Gibran. It's one of my favorite little poetic books. I honestly think anyone who picks it up, everyone who picks it up will learn something from this. It's so short, it's so beautiful. Go read it. Honestly, like, stop watching this video. Go find a copy. It's like 60 pages of amazing short lessons on so many various topics, ranging from love and marriage to death and to the spirit. And I highly encourage this book as a gateway sort of into poetry books. I actually have a quote from this book on a bracelet because I'm that type of person now. So I just really go read that book. The next book I'm about to show you guys, it's called The Alchemist. It's by Paulo Coelho. While I really don't enjoy reading his other books, sorry Paulo, this book is where the talent got used. That book, The Alchemist, it's a little longer than the books that I've shown you previously. This book I'm showing you guys right now, it's just a little book on metaphors and how to utilize them, the origins of the metaphors. I like to see how language sort of developed. While it's not a book that's necessarily for everyone, it's pretty quote-unquote boring, if you will. I also just really like the origins of words, and I like to understand more about why we use what we use in our daily speech, if I can help it. That's the book I was mentioning earlier, the Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist book. As I said, worth a read. I also really enjoy reading books that we think of as children's books, quote unquote. I like books like Falling Up by Charles Silverstein. I like books like A Light in the Attic by Charles Silverstein. I like The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but we move forward. I like these books, because they're a great introduction into utilizing our free time. I think they're a great way to introduce yourself into using iBooks and things like that. I just genuinely really enjoy reading even novels that make us question what it means to be human. This book is one such. It's called The Adoration of Jenna Fox. I don't really want to get too much into it. It's a trilogy. It's an amazing little book. It'll help you try and see what it means to be necessarily human. I'm also interested in sort of more biographical books. This one is by Chinua Achebe. He wrote one of my preferred books. It's called Things Fall Apart. It's about how Christendom tore down the local native religions and customs in a little African village. I really enjoyed that book as well. As I continue to scroll through my iBooks, please let me know if there's any book that sort of rocked your world or you genuinely hold dear to your heart, if you don't mind sharing what that book is. I'm always on the lookout to read more books and find more stories, and thank you guys so much for being so curious and so interested in the types of books I read and the stories I find really interesting. Thank you guys so much for watching this video as well.